So there's some things that we can do to make sure that we're safe around a gun, keeping those two principles in mind. Once again, don't ever point a gun at something you don't want to kill, and treat every gun that you see as though it were loaded. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so when we approach a firearm, I have two examples right here. So right here we have a 12 gauge shotgun, and right here we have a 20 gauge shotgun. Okay, the numbers are misleading because 12 is the bigger bullet. We'll call it a bullet, but that's not what it really is. But just for now, because it's probably something you're familiar with, than the 20 gauge. So it's a bigger and smaller, even though 20's, 12 is smaller than. It's backwards. It's the same way they measure wires. It's backwards. Okay. So when I approach a gun, I want to treat it as loaded. It's loaded until I can verify otherwise. So when I pick this up, I'm not going to point it at any of you people. I'm going to point it at my neighbors. Where do you think I should point the gun if I want to handle it safely? Away how? So Brother Christensen's pointing at the ground. Where else could I point it that's probably pretty safe? Up in the sky. Now that may not be true if I'm inside of a building and there's a floor above me, right? Or that may not be true if I'm in a building and there's a floor below me. Right. But if I'm outside, the ground or the sky are my best options, right? The ground is actually better than the sky unless I'm tight knit with people like this. So if I'm tight with you and I have a gun pointed at the ground, I'm still pointing at you, and so I might want to point it the same way. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so as I approach this gun, the first thing I'm going to do is approach it. I like to point to the sky in general, especially around people. I'm going to verify that this gun is actually unloaded. Okay? That's the first thing I do whenever I touch a gun, and I'm going to handle it. I want to know its state. I want to know, is it loaded or is it unloaded? Until I know it's unloaded, as far as I'm concerned, it's loaded. Does that make sense? Okay? So on a shotgun, the way that I'm going to do that is I want to check what's called the chamber. So let me sit back 1 second. So you've never been taught the parts of a gun. The most important part of the gun is the chamber. Is there something in it? Okay? The chamber on a shotgun, I'm going to show you. Okay? If you look in here, that's your chamber. Do you guys see any bullets in there?
No.
Okay. All right, so is this gun loaded or unloaded?
Unloaded.
Okay, this gun is unloaded. However, that doesn't mean that I'm going to take this gun and point it at you. Because what's the first rule?
Don't point it at someone.
I'm never going to point it at anything I don't want to kill. Loaded
Could there
or
still
unloaded.
be a bullet in there? Like
So,
up in there?
There
If
technically,
that's open, it
there
has to be
technically
there.
could, but I've looked up in there and I
Okay.
don't see anything.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay? All right? That's part
So
of
just
it.
because that's empty doesn't mean it's.
So I can
not
have it
loaded.
empty here, and there could be a bullet here. It's not likely on a shotgun, but it is
Okay.
possible. It should not. Once I do what I do, now this is called racking a shotgun. Once I do that, if there was a shell in there, it would have popped out. Does that make sense? Okay. Once I do that, if there was a shell in its chamber or in its oh shoot, what's this called? My mind just went blank.
Shaft.
In the
Breach?
no, the breech is still technically breech, chamber,
Sweet spot.
yeah, where you load the gun.
That's it.
So on the bottom of this gun, you actually load your ammunition right here. Okay, we're not going to load the gun today. All right, we will in the desert when we go, but today we're not going to load the gun.
Desert?
Yeah, when we go shoot, we're going to go in the desert.
How far in the desert?
We're going to go about an hour away.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So the reason we're going to go in the desert is because we're going to save a lot of money on range fees, and that's also the reason that we're having a little bit of a training today. That's because I want to give you kind of a baseline before we go out there and actually shoot the guns. Does that make sense? If you're uncomfortable with that, we could probably do a different activity where we go to a shooting range instead. But I would prefer to take you to the desert. It's a lot less expensive for a group of people. Okay? All right, when I load a gun, I'm actually going to load it here. Okay? So I'm actually just going to keep pushing shells in until it won't let me push shells in. Shotgun bullets are called shells. Okay? So I'll keep loading them in. This one will hold 4 in there. Okay? It'll also hold 1 back in this chamber. Okay? So it could hold as many as 5. Each one of these shotguns. Okay? Also depends on the size of the shell and stuff, but the ones that we're going to have, that's the rule. Okay? So the most I can have 5. Every time I do this to the gun, I'm actually preparing it to fire. Okay? All right. Now you brought up safety, right? So I am less worried about safety, the safety on a gun, than I am as to whether the gun is loaded. Okay? Once I know that it's loaded, then I might worry about my safety at that point. Does that make sense?
Well, I meant like
It's always a
it's
good
a
idea
safety.
to have a safety on. You're right,
Right.
okay? Okay, right here. So if you guys see any red on the safety, you guys see that red?
Yep.
It means the gun is ready to fire.
Okay.
It means the safety is off. If you don't see any red, that means the safety is on. That means I cannot pull the trigger. Okay? All right, I'm gonna verify one more time that we're really unloaded. Okay, I'm gonna take the safety off and now I can actually pull the trigger. Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
Okay, when you're shooting, it's a lot louder than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be wearing ear protection. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna have each one of you handle the gun now. Now, first rule is, what's the first rule of my
Don't
safety?
point it at something you don't want to kill.
What's the second rule?
Make sure it's not loaded.
So we're gonna treat it as though it is loaded, okay? And then with those two principles, we wanna see if it's loaded or not, right? Okay, so who wants to handle one to start? Okay, can I get some adults who have handled guns to just kind of get with each one of these young ladies? Okay, all right, so what's the first thing you're gonna do, Christina?
To no
Check and
one's
see if it's
surprise,
loaded
that's
or
not
not.
me.
Now, what I did not show you is once it's actually racked like this,
Uh-huh.
where it's ready to fire, this one is not, but if it were like this, you can't pull it down again.
Okay.
Okay, so the only way I can check this gun to see if it's seen, see this is a release here.
Okay.
So I pull that back and all of a sudden it releases and now I can look.
Okay.
If there were a shell in there, it would have kicked it out.
Okay.
Loaded
Okay.
with
If it were loaded in a shell. Yeah, well, a shell, whether it was loaded, like had,
loaded or
I would
not.
try to get my buddy to give me some empty cartridges tonight. I didn't get them. So I could load it with them. Load it. Okay, so that's the first thing you always want to do is make sure whether it's loaded or not.
And so if I were to pull down,
Okay, so if I want to cycle the gun,
right.
I'm actually going to pull this stock and I'm going to send it, not stock, four stock. I'm going to pull this forward to cycle it.
And then
Does that make
click
sense?
this.
Okay, now that would release it. Okay, but if I wanted to actually shoot the gun, you would pull that forward and now it's ready to fire if it was loaded.
Can I pull the trigger?
Yes. Okay, but we're not dropping that, right? So
Oh,
when you
okay.
went to do that, you started doing this. That's why I grabbed your gun.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Sense?